All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of GEEKED. Uh, show's basically about three best friends that decide to get together online when we can't see each other in real life and just shoot the shit about everything we enjoy. We plan on talking about everything dealing with movies, uh, television, music, books, comics, toys, video games, sports, whatever happens to come to mind here. My name is Mike Ficklin, and Justin.
Yeah, Justin. And really the main point of the podcast is to discuss whether or not LeBron James is, the best basketball player of all time. Well, what do you think about that, Jordan?
He is overrated.
Overrated. I see. I guess I'm outnumbered on the podcast. I guess we won't have that conversation then.
I'm so glad he's going back to soccer.
Jordan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Jordan, and I'm awesome. And I don't know. I guess that's about it, really.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
That's it.
That's all you need.
Yep.
Absolutely. So basically, for about an hour or two each week, we're just going to sit and geek it out. We may choose to do the show bi-weekly, just depends on what our schedules look like. But hopefully, we're going to have some fun, and you guys can have some fun with us. You can feel free to reach out to us with any comments or questions you have. You can email us at geekedpodcast@gmail.com, and that's geeked, Geeked, podcast@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail on Skype, and please keep in mind that we will not be there to answer the phone, so you will just need to leave a voicemail, and you can reach us at Geeked Space Podcast. You can also reach us at Twitter at Geeked Podcast, and you can also reach us via Facebook at Geeked Podcast as well.
Or they can leave us alone. That's a lot of way to get a hold of me. Why don't you just back off, fans? I'll be fine.
You can also leave us comments on the YouTube page. You can leave a comment. You can subscribe via iTunes and leave us comments on and rate us on iTunes, and we encourage you to please do that as well. Might be slow going for the first couple episodes as we get things figured out here, but once we get things figured out here, I think it'll run a little bit smoother. Today's big topic anyway, is going to be a discussion of Guardians of the Galaxy. We had the privilege of going out and catching that last night, and we decided we wanted to talk about it a bit while it's still fresh in mind. There will be spoilers to follow. I will give a notification when spoilers start so that you can feel free to skip forward. And if you're listening to the recorded broadcast and not the live broadcast, I will actually put up in the show details when it gets posted up on iTunes. I will actually post the times that you will want to forward past if you haven't seen the movie yet.
You slackers.
So I don't know. Let's go ahead and get started with. We'll do a little bit of a spoiler-free review of the film first, and move forward from there. Justin, you want to go ahead and roll?
Well, I guess, my general thoughts on the movie was that it was great. I have issues with it, but overall, I would have to say that it's my favorite Marvel movie holistically to date. The third act in Avengers, I think, is probably the best stuff that Marvel's put on the screen anyway. But this movie really is, it's a lot of fun. Not a whole lot of brain power behind it, but it does hit some dramatic high notes and pretty consistent throughout. So, like I said, at this point, it's definitely in contention with the first Iron Man and Avengers in the hierarchy of my favorite Marvel movies. I definitely do have some issues, and I'm sure we'll get into those in the spoiler section, specifically the kind of paper-thin bad guy. Not very much development, as is the case with most Marvel movies with the bad guys, and just not a lot of time to develop that character character and give him any kind of deep motivation as to why he's doing what he's doing. So, like I said, I'm sure we could really dive deeper into that in the spoiler discussions. But overall, I really couldn't recommend it more highly for anybody who's interested. I know in the screening that we went to, there was people of all ages. There were lots of laughs, and it was really one of the most fun experiences that I've had this year at the theater. So,
Jordan?
I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I liked, I guess, not giving spoilers away. I went through today and went back to the trailers and was watching the trailers, the first and the second one that they came out with, because I'd seen it before the movie came out, and I guess I can say that the trailers, they tell a good story of this is what the movie's going to be, but they don't. Now that I've seen the movie, I don't think the trailers really give away too much of the movie. Like, it's sort of, some funny lines and some plot, like, enough to know what you're getting into. But I didn't think they ruined anything. Not like some trailers just tell you, oh, we killed the bad guy at the end before you see the movie. But I thought the trailers were well done, and I like the style. It was a fun trailer, with the music and everything. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and Justin kind of made mention that it was his favorite of the Marvel movies. Did you feel that way also?
Yeah, I've liked all the Marvel movies, but I think this one probably had a better. Like, this is what I would expect a comic book movie to be about. We're dealing with things that you don't see in reality. Like, sometimes the crossover's okay, like with the Nolan Batman, but I think this was really the first movie where I believe that, like, there is stuff out there in the universe, and I think they handled it the right way to do a movie where it seems possible in that genre. If you read the comic book, you know they're in outer space, and if you see this movie, you know they're in outer space. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would have to say for sure that I think this movie does a good job of opening up the actual universe of Marvel movies to a much more cosmic scale. Obviously, they're in outer space; they're in a completely separate version of the universe. But it'll be really awesome if down the road in Avengers 3, or if they've thrown it in somewhere down the road in Phase 3 of the Marvel movies, Rocket Raccoon, giving shit to Captain America, that would be awesome. So, but like I said, I think the movie kind of opens up a little more of the silly, campy, weird stuff that I think is off-putting. And I have to say, when I initially heard about this movie, I was like, there's no way anybody wants to go watch a talking tree and a raccoon and some green lady and Batista, who somehow, like I said, I have to highlight him and say that he might be my favorite part of the entire movie. I didn't think anybody was jumping at that concept. But then, as Jordan said, the trailer really knocked it out of the park and set a tone. And I think that James Gunn, the director, really knocked it out of the park. Really took that, and he embraces the camp, not to a level where it's super silly or overly silly, where you can't take anything seriously, but just enough to make it silly and fun. And like I said, Marvel always does that. They always have that humor injected into all of their properties. But I think this movie, like I said, to this point, definitely hits that tone better than anything else that I've seen.
Yeah, and it's funny. I agree with what you're saying about characters that nobody knows. In fact, I remember reading some stuff right around the time Guardians was first announced. Maybe it was when they released that first trailer. I remember seeing people saying, "Whoa, it's fucking She-Hulk," and I'm like, it's. I wasn't quite sure Marvel was ready to give She-Hulk her own movie yet, even though I think she's getting her own Netflix show. But they did a good job with introducing characters that really nobody's very familiar with unless you're really hardcore into comics. And I love comic books, and I know you guys do too. Um, but these particular characters are not characters I'm familiar with, and I didn't really have an emotional attachment to any of them because of that. So I didn't. I went into the movie really with no preconceived notions other than what I had seen in the trailer. So when I went in to see the movie, I was actually very, very satisfied with the flick. I mean, it's definitely a popcorn flick. It's a flick you can just go in and mindlessly enjoy. It doesn't dig real super deep into any kind of heavy topics or anything like that. It is what it is. It presents you. It is what it is. Yeah, I thought it was great. I won't go as far as to say that I like it better than any other Marvel movie, but I will say that it was outstanding. It was tremendous as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's the formula that I'd like to see, because it kind of felt like a video game when you're watching the movie. I kept thinking like Mass Effect or
yeah, I thought that
Knights
too.
of the Republic. That's the kind of movie that those games should be made into.
Yeah, I definitely have to say, like, the oh shit, I forgot her name now. The blue Thanos daughter lady. Like, the whole time I was like, holy shit, that this is a Mass Effect movie. Like, she looked like a Mass Effect character. It did have a very Mass Effect feel. And that, obviously, I think that property is probably rich enough to mine and make a movie. So, but I will say that I think that the best part about most Marvel movies, and specifically these big team-up movies, like I said, I keep on referring to the Avengers. I love the Avengers. I love Joss Whedon. If we continue to do this and we gain a listenership, anybody out there listening will know that I love the Avengers by the time that we're done, because I just think it's fantastic.
Now you're talking the Sean Connery movie, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep, Uma Thurman and that I do have to say, every time that's on HBO, I'm so pissed because I'm like, oh, the Avengers, and I click and I'm like, oh shit.
That's how they get you.
Exactly. But as with any team up movie, Marvel does characters extremely well. I mean, obviously, we'll probably dive into differences between Marvel and DC a whole lot. Maybe not tonight, but DC kind of always mines that deep psychological, dark side of the psyche of their characters, and Marvel's a little more light and fluffy. But their interactions are what make the movie super interesting and compelling. I mean, the way that this team is put together, the first time that they meet, the way that they mesh, the way that they start to work together, that's what makes the movie fantastic. And that's really the best part of the movie. There's some fantastic action scenes, but I'd have to say, like I said, the plot is something that I would definitely point out as a weakness as far as the movie is concerned. But the interactions between the characters are what make the movie worth going in and seeing. So.
Yeah. By the way, I looked up the name of the character you were trying to think of. The character's name is Nebula.
Nebula. Right.
She's from outer space.
Exactly. Which I do have major issues with her, but we'll get to those in the spoiler section because holy shit.
So something that Jordan and I were discussing, we'd like to do like a rating for every movie we decide to review. We're going to rate it on a 10 scale. Every one of the individuals are going to give their rating for the show, and then we will average that, and we'll keep track of our ratings as time goes along here and stuff, and just be interesting to look back on at our aggregate scores and stuff over the years. So, Justin, what would you give it on 10 scale here?
Well, I mean, I guess this is one of those things with this being the first time that we're potting here, but I mean, is this like a 1 to 10 scale, an actual 10-point scale, or are we doing like half increments, like 9.5, 8.5? Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then I would say...
I'd say what's important to you, like for a movie, so any kind of a movie, what's something that you look for in all of your movies that you would rank this on?
Well, I'm a big story guy, so the plot the actual machinations of how the story's put together and told. That's usually the thing that I look for the most, and I'd say that probably weighs more heavily into any kind of rating that I actually would provide. And with this movie specifically, I mean, if posed the question as to what my rating would be, I would probably go 8.5, which sounds kind of funny as I've been so effusive as to how much I love the movie. But like I said, I think the plot is really weak, which we can get into in spoilers. But the plot just really does not have a whole lot going for it. The world building, I don't think is as fleshed out as it could be, as it has been in other movies. But I think that's kind of indicative of a lot of the Marvel movies. So, but like I said, as holistically as far as the movie is concerned, 8.5. If I was to just be looking at the plot, I'd probably be lower than that. I mean, I might drop that down to, a 6.5. So.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I don't want it to sound like I hate the movie, because I absolutely loved it. I would tell everybody, go watch this movie. It's fantastic. But it's not, I mean, I think that probably in 20 years from now, I don't think it's going to be something that I refer back to and say, this is the movie you have to see. But it is, I mean, it's quirky enough, it's funny enough for it to be a recommendation. So.
All right. So we're going to say a 7.5 for story.
6.5.
Well, we said 8.5 first, so we're going in the middle.
Okay.
So we're changing Justin's score to 7.5 based on story.
Well, he said 8.5 and then 6.5. So we're going to average those two Justin scores. He gets 2 because he went first. And I can't. You can't give it that low of a score, so I'm cheating.
All right, Jordan. How about you?
I'm going to look at, and I don't even know, I guess I want to call it like immersion, like how, when I look at a movie, I want to see like a realistic movie, whether it's a dramatic role or a comedy. How well does that movie universe look? How does it fit together? And I think this movie, I thought it fit together pretty well. They went to all these different planets, and each planet, not clearly defined, but you got a really quick idea of what each planet was about, what their society was about. So I thought that was pretty good. I think they did a good job with just some short lines with, some of the military officers. You knew, kind of what world you were dealing with. Just like in Star Wars, you could see whatever kind of ground they're walking on. You know what planet they're on. You know what it's about. So I'm going to give it an 8 for immersion.
So that you're just basing it solely off of the fact that you felt immersed into the universe, into the canon, if you will.
Yeah, like you could take any scene from that movie, and I kind of, you just look around and like the background and the characters and how they interact with like the main characters in the movie. And I guess I could talk about it more later on, but in the trailer, the first time you see Star-Lord, where he's stealing that orb, and the cops come in, and they say, "Who are you?" and he gives them the, Star-Lord, and they've clearly never heard about it. I think that's how cops would react when you give them a name like that, where like it sounds impressive, but you're just some guy, and like,
Totally reminds me of the thieves from the Home Alone movies, man. Remember, we're the wet bandits.
Exactly.
Remember, we're the sticky bandits.
Sticky bandits, that's right.
Right. The cops at the beginning of Home Alone were like, whatever, we're not, you guys are a bunch of kids, it's no big deal. But by the end of the movie, they took them seriously.
Right.
I want to see the like Home Alone 3. Well, I think that there is, where they replace Macaulay Culkin with some other actor. It probably was horrible. I never watched it. But I want to see the adult version where like all of these tragedies that befell Kevin McAllister when he was a kid like totally warped his mind, and he like becomes like a Batman or something like that, and he just goes out there and starts like killing criminals.
Isn't that like that's where Saul came from, right?
Yeah, exactly. Would you like to play a game?
Exactly. You pretend to break into my house, and I'm going to pretend to kill you, and then I'm going to kill you.
And they probably, well, the saddest part is they could probably really cast Macaulay Culkin because he's so fucked now that it would just be totally believable. They wouldn't even have to do any kind of like makeup job or anything. It'd just be like, man, this guy's a crackhead.
Just give him some more crack and he'll be fine.
Yep.
Exactly.
So yeah, as far as my score on it, I'm basing my score. I love a movie that makes me forget that I live on Earth and in a place of limited science fiction potential. That's why I love Star Wars and so many of these Marvel movies, DC movies, things of that nature. Just by the very fantastical nature of everything. So I'm going to score this one based off of that. I'm going to score it an 8. I really enjoyed the film from start to finish. I did feel like the story was lacking, and I felt like there was problems with how thin I felt like the villain was, and also felt like they're just at times some of the actors are chewing the scenery, to say the least. And I had a little bit of problem with that. The movie does a pretty good job of walking the very fine line between being humorous and being camp. And there is a very fine line. At times I almost felt like it was walking into 1966 Batman territory a time or two. But I'll give it a solid 8. It's definitely worth seeing, and especially worth seeing given the fact that these are characters that really no one in the general public is probably familiar with beforehand. So I thought it was really outstanding.
All right. We'll call that category wonderment, I guess. So an 8. All right. So that gives us an average of 7.8 for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow. That seems way lower than it should be, man. But,
well, I think that's pretty good, though. Room to grow. I want some more stuff in there, but...
I mean, what did you really want, though, to be perfectly honest? I mean, it's not like we're talking about a masterpiece of a film here. Right. I mean, it's not like we're talking about, I don't know, The Empire Strikes Back, which I would score a perfect 10. I mean, it's not The Empire Strikes Back by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with that point. It's just... my score was obviously the lowest, so it sounds kind of silly to see sitting here talking about how low it is. But I really, when I walked out of the theater, I thought, man, that was a really good movie. And I think that I would, if my wife grabbed me and said, let's go watch that movie right now, I'd be like, right on, let's go watch it. Like, that's how much I enjoyed it. But like I said, the things that I have issues with really pull it down in my book. But I don't know, it's hard. It's one of those movies where it is like popcorn, turn off your brain, and you can enjoy it, but it's not, like you said, it's not a masterpiece. It's just, that seems low to me. So
I'm happy with that. I think it's a heist movie. It's a heist movie in space. And America loves heist movies, but they never get any awards. You know, it's not going to win Oscars and Emmys and all that. But the people are going to like it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not your Ocean's 11 heist movie, but it's definitely that in that vein. I feel you there.
Yep.
All right, so at this point, I'm gonna say spoilers, and from this point for a little bit, we are gonna really do a deep dive into the film. So if you have not yet seen it, go ahead and fast forward on through this here and move on to the next part of the podcast here.
No, don't let them get off so easy. You pause it, you go see the movie, and then you come back.
Even better suggestion. Okay, so to open up the deep dive on Guardians of the Galaxy, how did we feel about the background on Star-Lord? How did we feel about his full backstory and his motivations?
Jordan?
I like it. I think that's that works. You you meet him first, and he's got the ill parent, which you have to become a hero. And his mom is drifting off, and she starts babbling about like your dad's an angel, and he's made out of light, and everyone else in the room kind of just blames it on the drugs, or like this.
Yeah, but only to find out. Only to find out that she was not smoking crack and that her angel husband gave her cancer or some shit, right? I mean,
right.
So
that's cool. I mean, you knew something was going on in the '80s. Didn't expect alien pregnancy, but that does explain a lot, definitely.
Well, it explains DC Cab for sure.
You know it. So that movie is Celestial.
Right.
Yeah, if Peter Quill's dad ends up being Mr. T, I'm out.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Calling it quits.
Gary Busey, maybe.
Hello, kids.
I honestly, in the movie, I expected the pirate leader to be announced as his dad because of the things he kept saying. Every time he saw him, he kept calling him son, and even in that last scene, he's like, you thought I was just a pretty angel of light or whatever. Like, it seemed like the same words his mom said at the beginning of the movie. So I thought that was weird, but then he says he's not, that they were hired by his father, so...
Yeah, I actually thought, why is his name escaping me right now? Actor's name that played the leader of the Ravagers.
Mike Rooker?
Yeah, Rooker.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, his name escaped me there for a moment. He's one of my favorite character actors, and I can't believe I forgot his name. I actually loved his character. I loved his weapon. That arrow thing that he controlled with the whistle was freaking awesome.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I was like, how lame. Like when they showed it the first time. And then they totally flipped that on its ear, man. Like, I was like, oh, he whistles and this thing flies around. And then when he's on the ground in that final scene and he's, like, whistling and it's just, like, flying through all those people, which, I mean, let's be honest, all those people have, like, the slowest reaction time of all time. If the thing can kill all of them, but it was still pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, it was probably a poison.
A poison? Is that what you said?
Some kind of space poison, I think. After the shrapnel goes through you, that doesn't kill you.
Well, it's kind of like that stupid scene from Austin Powers when they're driving the
yeah, exactly,
and it's like, move, move.
That's exactly what it did feel like. I was like, move, shoot him. You have a gun. Like, they're literally the last guy as the arrow is flying toward him. If I can recall it from memory here, I believe the guy is like, he doesn't even have his gun pointed at him. Like, during all this time that it's flying through like 50 other dudes, he never even squeezed the trigger. He actually just kind of moved the gun out of him, off of him, and then it goes through his chest. But again, I thought Rooker's character was pretty good. I thought he did a pretty good job. In regards to the actual backstory of the dying mom, like, it was all right. It wasn't something that I'd be like, really, really take as a huge criticism against the movie. I did not like it returning at the end. I did not like the scene where he grabs the Infinity Stone and is going to grab Gamora's hand, and then it like flashes back, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't take my mom's hand, and I'll take her hand." And it just rang a little false to me, because they're not. I mean, I get what they're trying to go for. It just was way too much in that last scene to even refer back to that scene. So obviously,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Obviously, his dad is a heavy hitter somewhere within the Marvel Universe. Like I said, I'm completely unfamiliar with the property, so I have absolutely no idea what that is referring to or where that can go. I mean, it's an interesting tidbit to throw out at the end of the movie to set up Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But yeah, like I said, I didn't have a problem with it being there. The concept behind her giving him a gift and him not opening it until this scene later on in the movie where he's got this catharsis, was well done. But it wasn't like I said, it's not Shakespearean, but it wasn't anything that I thought was terribly done. So,
that the whole thing with Peter reaching out for his mom's hand, that resonated with me a bit, and I'll explain. When my dad had cancer and was dying in his hospital bed, that was some of the closest moments I ever had with my dad. Was sitting at his bedside and just holding his hand. He was very heavily sedated and wasn't very aware of many things, but he would wake up every once in a while and squeeze my hand, and I'm grieving for him, and he's waking up and winking at me and squeezing my hand and telling me it's going to be okay. So that resonated with me, and it kind of tugged at my heartstrings a bit. So I'm not for me. I felt that moment of the movie and stuff, and I felt like it was come full circle there at the end. So it kind of found itself a bit of a resolution. Was a little bit forced, a bit corny probably, but it resonated with me in the right way. So.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I mean, I don't think I think a lot of people can probably have experiences like that to draw from and make that more evocative, make that more relevant to their experience with the film. But like I said, I don't have any problem with it. I don't really have, like I said, strong feelings about it one way or another. But I do have to say, to springboard into my ultimate criticism of the movie, like, the bad guy is just total dog shit MacGuffin. Where, like, I don't even understand. I'm having a hard time articulating exactly what he is, because the movie doesn't even say. It starts with him taking a sand bath or something in some black goo. Then they throw sand on his belly. Then he gets in this armor, and then he talks to Thanos for like 2 seconds, and he's like, okay, whatever, I'll do whatever you want. Like, they just don't, like, I will say the movie, I feel, is paced really well. It feels like a really lean movie. It doesn't feel like it's got a lot of fat on it, but I think maybe they cut a little bit too much. Like, they cut to the bone when it comes to establishing the motivations for him, how the machinations of what he's doing. Like, he's just in a big dark ship with like 3 people on it, and he's got all these like weird clay dudes fighting with him that are not Krill, whatever the hell. Kree, not Kree. But he doesn't have any other Kree fighting with him, so I don't understand. Like I said, as somebody that's totally unfamiliar with the property and doesn't know all of those races, it's like, what is going on? Who is this? Then it's like, there's these 2 women that are with him that are Thanos' daughters, but they're not Thanos' daughters. Like, they just didn't have enough time to build up me, like, even really caring about that guy. And the way that it's resolved at the end, he just gets disintegrated. Like, it's not really like, it's really not climactic at all. He's just like, oh, you got the stone? Oh shit! And then he's gone. So
it's the bitch out move that they did with the Phantom Menace killing off fucking Darth Maul, man. The fuck? Yeah, he's gonna get totally sneak attacked by fucking Obi-Wan jumping out of the damn pit and cutting clean in half after he's been whooping his ass for the last 15-20 minutes. He's whipping 2 Jedi at that, and he gets bitched out like that. I mean, that's how it felt to me. I agree with what you're saying there.
Well, I disagree. I thought there was a lot of subtlety. Like, you can kind of see what Ronan's all about. Like, they don't come out and say it, but you can kind of pick up on it. I think it's 300 or the new one, but Xerxes is like in a pool of gold or something. Or maybe it's one of the Mummy movies. I don't know. But the scene where you got your villain in a bath and he comes out and he's got servant people like drying him and dressing him, that's when you know you got a badass on your hands. 'Cause he doesn't care
Well,
who sends you naked, dry it off.
That's the whole thing. Like, he's supposed to be a badass, and then he does nothing. Like, he talks to Thanos for a couple minutes, then he goes back, and then he goes back and he kills the little Chitauri dude. That's like Thanos' messenger or whatever the hell he is, and then he kills. I'm coming back for you.
The most evilest person in the galaxy. He kills his right-hand man, so you know this dude's evil. And then on the other planet, the Glenn Close character is talking with the other government, saying you got to do something about this guy. He's crazy. And they're like, yeah, he is crazy, but he's your problem. So even his own people, his own race, says this religious zealot is cuckoo, but he's not killing us, so we're cool with it.
Well, right. I mean, I would say that that Nero in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek remake is a pretty close allegory to this guy. Like, some weird motivation makes him want to wipe out an entire race of people, and he's doing it with a big ship. But Nero's character, I think, is more fleshed out in that movie. Like, they explore the reason why Nero wants to kill all of the Vulcans. And in this movie, it's like, this guy just wants to kill him. And it's like, why? You didn't give me a reason to know why he wants to do that. Like, if he just wanted to destroy the universe, because like Thanos, in this movie they explicitly say Thanos wants to destroy the world. He wants to destroy galaxies. He wants to destroy planets with this stone that obviously alludes to, has way greater implications throughout the entire universe than just in this movie. But this guy just wants it to kill Zaxos. Does anybody remember the name of the planet that he wants? Xanthium? Something like that.
Xanthium, that's sure. Some kind
but,
of medicine.
It doesn't say why. Like, they're like, oh, there's a peace treaty between the Kree and these guys, but he doesn't want to abide by that, and he wants to go kill him, but there's no reason behind it except for that he's crazy. It's like, okay.
Sometimes
that's
all you need.
You're looking for.
I'm thinking like Die Hard. John McClane goes after Hans Gruber. Why was Hans Gruber angry? He was German, so he attacks the Japanese, and he's going to get some gold on the side. That's all you know about the guy.
Community.
No, not him. That's Lethal Weapon.
I realize that.
Yeah. So there's no character development for Hans. He comes in, he shoots some people, he shoots some more people.
Well, yeah, but I think that if you extrapolate, if Hans Gruber was going to blow up the world, like, you would want more motivation behind why he wanted to blow up the world. Like, it makes sense. Like, the motivation behind a criminal going to do something to perform a heist or get some kind of money makes sense. A guy wanting to destroy an entire planet needs more explanation as to why he wants to do that.
I think if you're a religious zealot, you don't. You feel you're right, and everybody else must die.
But then, establish the fact that he's a religious zealot. Like, I just think.
They said it.
Well, they did say it.
Right, they pay lip service to it. Like, they allude to it. Like, they show him in a weird bath and getting sand thrown on him, which I don't know what the hell that was.
That's good enough for me.
Like, close-ups of, like, people with a handful of sands, like, throwing it on his belly and on his knee. And I'm like, right. Okay, like...
That boy ain't right.
You get sand on your knee, it's over. It's over. But...
Well, look at his girlfriends. He's dating two of the most dangerous chicks in the universe, who are stepsisters. In front of each other, and they don't seem bothered by it.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up, because if you want to talk about like paper thin, if you want to talk about like single ply work bathroom toilet paper thin.
Well, hold on before we get into those chicks. I just wanted to say that I agree with everything you're saying about Ronan being paper thin. I wanted more of him, because I thought he was a badass bad guy. Clearly, he was far more powerful than our heroes and stuff, which makes him compelling. I wanted more of him. It was the Darth Maul thing all over again from Phantom Menace. Maul was such a badass in every scene that he was in, and you just didn't get enough of him. He didn't say enough, and maybe that's the appeal to Darth Maul, was that we didn't get enough of him, so we think very fondly of him. But he totally had that Darth Maul syndrome, and he got taken out like Darth Maul. It was. I wanted more out of it, and I think what they were trying to do was set up that Thanos is the ultimate villain of the Marvel Universe, or at least that's what they're pushing for. And I wanted more of why Ronan was allied with Thanos. I wanted more of the backstory of why Ronan was against these people of Xandar, and why he was against the Kree, basically signing a peace treaty between them and Xandar. I felt like that was lacking, and if we had just a little bit more, I mean, they didn't have to. They could have spent another 5 minutes of exposition and made it perfect. It would have been perfect.
Well, I mean, I don't know, Mike. I'm pretty sure Jordan and I went and watched Thor: The Dark World, which I thought was a way worse movie than this movie could ever dream to be. But I mean, like I said, I think it's a pretty common problem that all the Marvel movies have. Like, they establish these bad guys that are like kind of one and done bad guys, and they don't allow them to be interesting. Like, they're just there just to be the bad guy, just to create conflict. Which, I mean, obviously, any story that you're looking at, you need conflict. But these guys are supposedly painted out as these giant badasses, and then nothing happens. And like I really hate, like, really, Ronan makes Thanos like look like a little punk ass cinnamon roll.
He does, because especially that scene when he kills Thanos's assistant, if you will, when he just goes and offs him, and Thanos does nothing about it.
Yeah, he just sits there.
Spins around in his little Emperor Palpatine chair and twiddles his thumbs, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to establish Thanos as a badass, like, have that be the end of the movie. Like, instead of having this, like, and them holding hands was cool. I thought it was satisfying to see them all kind of band together as a team, and that's kind of the whole conceit of the movie. But if the end of the movie would have just been like Thanos coming and like he's about ready to kill the Guardians, and Thanos is like, "Hey, bitch," and just like destroys him, and then grabs the stone and goes off, like, that would have been a much more, to me, it would have made a lot more sense. It would have not been, like I said, because Thanos is like this thing that everybody's talking about, like, Thanos, he's a badass, he's the craziest dude, and then this guy just straight up punks him right to his face. Like, he just goes to floaty rockland wherever Thanos is. I don't know where that is. And then he just kills the guy that's got like total emphysema. That's his messenger. I mean, I don't know what the guy was in the Avengers.
He's got the worst case of leprosy I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's like. I mean, it was cool because the guy's he's all like, "You don't talk to Thanos," and Ronan's all like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll just like spin your head around like 180 degrees, bitch." But then like, Thanos just sits there and looks at him, and he's like, "Thanos, I'm coming back for you." Like, Thanos would be like, and the first time he sees him, Thanos is like, "I'll bathe the star waves in your blood with your blood," and then when he punks him, Thanos is just like, whatever. That guy was a bitch anyway. I'll get you later. Like, I don't. Why wouldn't Thanos like get off of his throne and just kick his ass right there? Like,
Thanos doesn't have time to mess with those little guys. He's running the galaxy. He can't be dealing with middle management.
and then I also have to take issue with like this idea of that if anybody touches the Infinity Stone, they die, and then 3 people effing touch the Infinity Stone and don't die. Like, Ronan grabs the Infinity Stone. Does not die. He does not die. He grabs the Infinity Stone and then he throws it into his totally nonsensical hammer. It's got like a 10-foot long handle, and then the hammer part is like the size of my iPhone. Like, what is the point of that weapon? But anyway,
definitely not Mjolnir.
Exactly. he puts the stone or gem or whatever we're calling it at this point into the hammer. But why didn't he die? Like they're like only a person with immense power can hold this gem, and so then it's revealed at the end of the movie that Peter Quill is like a hybrid, like a half-breed. Like he has some kind of DNA within him from this ultimate powerful being. Great, but then why the hell did Ronan do the same thing? He grabbed it and he did not die. It doesn't make any sense.
3-second rule.
But anyway, like I said, to move on from the things that we hate about the movie and get into some of the more fun things that I've really liked about the movie here in the spoiler section. Batista, like I said, was my biggest worry going into the movie. I was like, this is a professional wrestler. There's absolutely no way that this guy is going to be any good. They cast him because he looks gigantic, and he knocks it out of the park. I mean, the concept of the character with his taking everything totally literally and not understanding metaphors and just interaction with him and these people that obviously are totally sarcastic and are throwing things that don't make any sense to him. And I mean, it's the way that he like when they crash the spaceship into Ronan's spaceship and he's just laughing the entire time. Like, holy shit! He was fantastic.
It was brilliant. Yeah, I was getting ready to say that he was one of the highlights of the film for me. I was extremely concerned about it, and I actually thought he did a brilliant job with it. He was. I mean, for someone that has not had a whole lot of acting experience outside of actually being a professional wrestler, I mean, he totally got it. He got the part. He understood it. He rolled with it. He might have been my favorite character of the movie. In fact, his motivations were by far my favorite of the film. The whole thing with wanting revenge against Ronan for the death of his family and stuff, that was awesome. The way they introduced him, he had the whole silent badass thing going on. He's eyeing Gamora in her prison cell and stuff like that, and the way, I thought his character was awesome. He was amazing. Jordan?
Yeah, I liked a lot of his lines and just his movements and everything. He's a big guy, but yeah, you could tell like he didn't really understand what was going on for most of the movie. But when I play games online, I play with guys just like that who you set up an online mission. They're like, well, we're just gonna go in and kill everybody, and then like you have to sit them down and be like, no, we're gonna do a plan, and you're gonna go here, and we're gonna go here, and then the mission starts, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna go blow them up anyway.
Yeah, and I do have to say that's one of the biggest contrivances of the entire movie when they go to wherever, nowhere. Is that where they fight Ronan?
The first time
where Batista like calls him on the phone. Like, what the fuck is that? That's like we're in a world where we're talking about talking raccoons and trees, and the way that they get the bad guy to meet them and fight is call him on the fucking phone. You are fucking kidding me. Who wrote that in the script? I mean, come on now. I mean, what? I mean, like I said, it was a cool scene once they got there. It was cool that Batista. I keep on calling it Batista. Is it Drax? Drax in the movie, I believe.
Drax.
Drax.
Drax the Destroyer, I think is.
He's like way full of himself, and he's like, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass, and then he gets his ass kicked himself.
Right.
So I mean, I think it served the character well to have that actual confrontation take place. But like the idea that he just called him on the phone is like just the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, when you got intergalactic, interstellar travel, there's going to be some communication systems. And when you're in a mining community, there's probably only going to be a couple phones. So I get that. Like he didn't whip the cell phone out of his pocket and be like, I got Ronan on speed dial.
Right, but
where'd he get Ronan's number? Like
he went to Western Union and said, I need to send a telegram.
Exactly.
Right now, why Ronan would accept that call? Like who delivers that message to him?
He did a reverse number search, look up on Google.
Exactly. Get this letter to the Pony Express and get it over there to him. You know.
Yeah, no,
So,
but I agree with what you're saying there. I mean, that whole setup was stupid. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, why not have some random villain that works that's not a spy or something reach out and make that contact? Why has it got to be Drax that makes that mistake? Let him make the mistake once Ronan shows up and goes and tries to fight him himself. Don't have him make that phone call. That was just a bad choice. Bad writing.
Or have a group of soldiers for Ronan go, and then Drax kills them all, so you see he really is a badass. But there's no way Ronan is going to go on the off chance that all the way in the corner of the galaxy they have what I want, and they call me to go pick it up. No, you should be smarter than that.
Oh, I feel you. I mean, and at that point, I don't quite think that Ronan truly knew what was in that orb anyway. He didn't know that until
True.
after they had got it. So he really wouldn't have a strong motivation to go out there himself to take care of that stuff. He could have sent some foot soldiers and said, "Hey, fuck it," or sent his buddy that ran into Star-Lord at the beginning of the movie to go after that stuff.
Exactly. Because you could still have the aerial fight scene with all the ships and stuff. You can still do that with a small contingent of soldiers.
yeah,
But,
which by the way, I mean, in my reading about the movie, I mean, I guess the Nova Force is supposed to be like this badass interplanetary defense force. Like they're supposed within that universe are supposed to be super badasses. And in this movie, their defenses they all hold hands and form a net so that the ship can't get to their planet.
Yep.
It was visually interesting, but just that final action scene I thought was kind of lame, actually. Them running through the ship, the interaction that they had as they were running through the ship, okay, but the action scenes were pretty lackluster. I mean, Rocket flying around and killing people was exciting, but it just wasn't. It wasn't on the level that I wanted it to be for the final scene of the movie. The final action set piece of the movie.
I mean, I'm fine with the aerial battle and stuff, but I was way disappointed with the final confrontation with Ronan himself. There was nothing to it. I wanted Drax to get his fucking hands on him. I wanted Drax to get his hands around dude's throat and whoop his fucking ass for him, and that is totally not what happened at all. That was disappointing. But speaking of Rocket, Bradley Cooper is another highlight for me because I forgot Bradley Cooper was voicing him because the voice he used was so different from his usual speaking voice that you hear and his performances and like Limitless and things like that. Or The Hangover. So I totally lost myself in the fact that he was playing Rocket, and he did a phenomenal job, I thought.
Well, you don't see him in those roles very often, where he's the gun-toting hero. I can really only think of one movie where he's really a badass. I know you haven't seen it.
A-Team.
But when you need a problem and so no one else can help you, you call Rocket Raccoon.
Oh, Jordan.
I take it you disagree about Rocket, about Bradley Cooper?
No, I think he did an excellent job. I thought some of his lines were a little drawn out. Like, if anything, I would think a raccoon would talk faster. Like not quite as fast as like a chipmunk, but that idea of like, smaller larynx, so you talk faster or higher or something.
Yeah, but he was also cybernetic, so
metallic. I don't know. It seemed a little off, but it was all right.
It was almost like a Brooklyn accent.
Definitely like space trucker sensibilities, like a little more rough around the edges, and like I said, I think that kind of lends itself to the East Coast sensibilities. But I have to echo Mike's sentiments. I thought that he did a fantastic job, and if I had not known that it was Bradley Cooper, I would have never known it was Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think voice work is a hard thing to pull off. Obviously, we play a lot of video games. We watch a lot of animated stuff, and I have heard my fair share of terrible voice acting. But I thought he did great. And like I said, I mean, if you want to kick Vin Diesel in there, I thought he did great saying the 4 words that he said the entire time in the movie.
Yeah, 3 words, and I thought Vin Diesel probably, like, I thought his job was better than Bradley Cooper's. I think Bradley Cooper did okay, but Vin, like, the emotion you can get out of 3 words, you know, and the animation has a lot to do with it too, but, you know, I'm sure he had to spend hours getting just the right terms down, you know, the way he says it. So it's got to be hard.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely think there's probably more to that role than a tongue-in-cheek reference to him only saying 4 words. And he says 4. He says,
5, actually.
I am Groot. We are. Yeah, 5. We are Groot. So he actually uses correct grammar there, which I give him a high five for, being that he only speaks 5 words. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I would say that obviously we disagree about Rocket's performance. I thought he was great. I thought he was a great character, and I thought he was, you know, I thought he was great. I mean, I really think that if you want to talk about the actor that I probably have the most issue with the entire movie, or didn't think really knocked it out of the park, it would be Peter Quill. I guess that's not the actor's name. Right. Yeah, Chris Pratt. I mean, I like Chris Pratt. I like him in a lot of things, and I thought he did an okay job in this movie. But he didn't shine as brightly as the other people did. So.
Yeah, I agree, and he more than anyone else was the one that was making me feel like it was walking the fine line between corny and funny. His performance is so over the top at times, and so ridiculous in some of the things he's saying and doing. Sometimes it was pushing that border really hard. Almost to the point it reminded me of a little bit of Frank Gorshin's Riddler from the 1966 Batman TV series. Just chewing up the scenery in some instances.
See, I like that. I thought his character was probably my favorite, and I get it because, you know, according to the story, he's probably 10, 12 in 1988 when we pick him up in the movie, and so what's out at that time? You got the Ninja Turtles, you got Knight Rider and the A-Team, and you got all those just corny, cheesy 80s stuff. So that's your last pop culture reference that you can really connect to, you know. And then we go 20 years where that's the last thing that you really have of your homeland. You're going to turn into a really wisecracking, you know, awesome guy. You're Boba Fett with attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think that might be bringing a little bit too much, or reading a little bit too much into the character. I think it's probably more a byproduct of him being on TV a lot, and a lot of times TV, especially sitcoms, just lend themselves to being a little more overacty, a little more. Yes. A little more broad and you know, less subtle in what you're trying to do, and so he just hasn't really refined or honed that skill to bring that to the role. So I mean, like I said, I think he did a good job. There was definitely times that lines that he said and did made me laugh out loud, but there were other times where I think that the people that he was bouncing off of, I mean, Zoe Saldana, I think is great. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything that I thought she was bad in, but I think she probably will get the least amount of credit from the entire cast just because she plays the straight man and everybody else is so kooky and weird. But she plays the straight man well. And like I said, I don't think that Chris Pratt did a terrible job. I just think sometimes he was a little bit too, like Mike said, a little too over the top in some of the deliveries of the lines that he was given. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, he didn't kill the movie for me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He didn't kill the movie. There were times when I just cringed when he made a delivery of a line. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Or there's that perfect example, that sequence when he is standing out on the balcony with Gamora, and he's having her listen to his Walkman, and there was some of that stuff was really, really awkward in the way that he performed it.
Yeah,
Well,
or that scene where she's floating out in space, and then he catches
Yes.
her, and then they go in the airlock, and they're like 100% fine, which I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
There was no number one. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're in a different universe where space, is a vacuum and would kill somebody flying around in a trench coat and a weird mask that comes out of a Bluetooth earset. But definitely he would have died regardless of everything else. Like, she has body modifications. She's an alien, like, whatever. But then they fall into the airlock and they're 100% fine. Like,
Yeah.
there's no there was ice crystals forming on them. Like, their eyes look like they were going to explode, and then they fall into the pit, into the airlock, and they're fine. And then he delivers some really bad lines. Like, he's like, I felt heroic, and the way he delivered the line, I agree, was very on the nose and very over the top.
I like that, and so you find out at the end of the movie that he's half god or whatever, so that's why he's okay. And there's probably enough atmosphere around that super freakishly large head that it's not a complete vacuum. But the character that I took from, like, that's after you save someone's life, you would totally be cocky about it.
I mean, I'm cool with him being cocky about it and stuff, but
Right.
his delivery of the line, it was really cornball. There wasn't enough. I don't know how to put it, and not enough emotion maybe in it. I don't know. It was delivered so flat. I don't know.
I agree. It felt like there should have been like a piece of score underneath, like some kind of funny little jingle after he said it. Like, it wasn't that funny that he said it that way. Like, no, like the writing itself, the line itself is not a bad line. It's not, it's true to the character for him to be a little braggadocious after he saves her life and be like, hey, I was a hero. But the way that he delivers it just, like I said, it just not totally. It doesn't, like, it's not a rocket to the moon as far as overacting is concerned, but he just kind of steps over the line a little bit too much in some of those scenes, especially that one where it does kind of throw you out of the movie a little bit and be like, whoa, that doesn't seem to fit within the rest of the tone of the movie. So,
and overall for the movie and for the heroes, I think a lot of the reason why I got drawn into it and enjoyed it so much is it felt like Firefly. It felt like it totally felt like a Firefly vibe with the ensemble cast and their interactions. It felt like Firefly, and I love Firefly. Thanks to you guys for turning me on to that. It was amazing that feeling that comes with enjoying an ensemble cast like that. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, I felt that too.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I felt like watching a Firefly type movie, or like, because of the aliens, I guess you'd have to cross it with like Star Trek or something. But that feel is definitely what I felt watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, obviously, I think that the sensibilities are, similar there. It's more of a lived-in world feel as opposed to new, shiny.
Yeah.
A little more dirty, a little more grimy. And I think that I mean, I'm probably a bigger fan of a world like that than I am a sleek, new, shiny, everything's, super futuristic and silly and over the top. So yeah, like I said, I definitely would agree. I got those feelings as well watching the movie. I was like, yeah, this kind of strikes me as those, more realistic takes on what space would be like if it wasn't a new thing for us. It was just a run-of-the-mill, everyday place where aliens go and mine pour ore out of a giant old space beam's skull. So
Right. Or on Xanthian when they're trying to sell the orb, and you meet that too. You meet Rocket and Groot, and they're just in this middle of this citadel-like plaza where you got all kinds of different colors of people walking around, and they're like, yeah, talking raccoon, moving tree, ain't no big deal. We're from space.
Yeah, so speaking of that, to address the elephant in the room, or if you will, the duck in the room, how about appearance of Howard the Duck?
That made my day. I called that as soon as LucasArts sold to Disney. I knew this was coming.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not super familiar with Howard the Duck outside of the 80s movie, which, I mean, I watched that movie a million times, and the naked duck lady is stuck in my mind. For some reason, when I was a kid, every time I was like, oh, that's a naked lady, even though it was a giant lady in a duck suit that was naked. But she had boobs. So, I mean, duck boobs. But you know what I'm saying. But,
so is that why all your coats are down coats now?
But yeah, like I said, when he came on screen, I literally said out loud, like exclaimed, like holy shit! Like I mean, I don't think it has any ramifications outside of the movie. It's just a fun little shout out to the fans. Like, hey, here's this kind of obscure character that not a lot of people knew what was going on. I'm sure. I mean, I heard people be like, "What the hell was that?" as they were leaving the theater. So.
Yeah, because it's not the same one from the movie. So you.
Oh no, not at all.
I think he's ready for a reboot, though.
I don't know if you're going to see it in a movie. Howard the Duck is another one of those characters that's just not in the popular pantheon of people that or characters that you remember from Marvel. I mean, you say the name Captain America or Spider-Man, Thor, any of those guys, you're going to elicit more of a reaction out of those guys than you would Howard the Duck. I could see maybe they try to reboot him in the form of maybe a Netflix series or some kind of television series and stuff, but I definitely don't see it happening in a movie, at least not right away anyway.
He's going to be in the next Avengers. You watch.
Oh, Christ, I hope not.
Here comes Iron Duck.
Oh, shit.
I will have to say, I mean, I think this probably might bring us to another discussion here, but what do you guys think of post-credit tags? That's obviously become all the rage. Obviously, Marvel obviously weren't the first to do it, but Marvel was the people that made it where you feel like you can't leave a movie after the movie's over now and everything that you see.
It doesn't. I mean, for Marvel, it makes complete sense because they are trying to build a cinematic universe, as it were. They're trying to build up to future movies and make everything interconnected, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. I think it's a bit of fan service if you lip service. I enjoy them. I mean the the Avengers scene, the shawarma scene is brilliant. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. And Marvel didn't start that anyway. I mean, there have been various movies over the years that have done it. I think the first one that I remember ever actually seeing that on was the end of the 1987 Masters of the Universe live-action movie. If you sit around and wait through all the credits, Skeletor pops up out of a pool of water at the bottom of the pit he fell into and screams, "I'll be back," with a maniacal laugh. And so that's the first time I ever remember seeing anything like that. So I was like, "Whoa, holy shit! I didn't even know that was there." So
I'm okay with one. I say start the credits. Give me the big hitters and then your tag and then all the animators and the drivers and the catering service because no one really needs to see those names. But a second one at the end of a 3-hour-long movie is just greedy. Because most people aren't going to sit that long, and it's only a few seconds. It just seems like that's a long wait for something, and then you got to figure out, like, well, what's that about anyway? Like this one, I would now expect to see the next Marvel movie to be Howard the Duck and something with a Russian dog, and that's not coming. So it's just a weird.
Yeah,
I like the idea.
I'm totally down with them existing, and I think sometimes they're used to greater effect than others. I'm more of a fan of a tag like in Guardians of the Galaxy with Howard the Duck, as opposed to the tag at the end of Captain America, the first Avenger, where it's like, oh, there's this blue cube in a briefcase, and then like people that are totally unfamiliar with it are like, meh. I'm trying to set up future movies. Sometimes it's done okay, but it's like I'm a nerd, and when I saw Thor's hammer at the end of, I don't even remember if that was Iron Man or what. But when I saw Thor's hammer, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But at the same time, it's 2 years away. Like, I don't really need. I'd much rather it be a funny send up like the shawarma scene or Howard the Duck, where it's a shout out and it's like, thanks for sticking around, and here's something you can laugh about later with your friends, as opposed to, here's the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for 2 seconds, and everybody's like, whoa! It's like, well, first of all, if you're tapped into the internet anyway, you already know who is cast as Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch.
Did you just deliver a spoiler to me over Captain America: The Winter Soldier? Because I haven't seen that yet. Did they throw Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in at the end of that?
Oh, it's a post credits tag. It's okay. Not. It is. I guess it is a spoiler, but it's not. I mean, they show them. That's it. Okay. It's like, oh, here's these two people. Boom. And they don't have anything to do with they don't have anything to do with the plot of the movie at all.
Okay. So, yeah, the movie comes out on Blu-ray I think next week, so it will definitely be a pickup on my pickup list. I really want to see it. I heard it was good. Good review.
For sure. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought it was way better than the first, and probably one of the best of the Phase 2 films. I mean, Iron Man 3, I was not a very big fan of. Thor, I really didn't like at all. So. I thought it was definitely worth watching, and there was some really cool stuff in that movie. So,
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to take us off topic. So, Jordan, are you a Howard the Duck fan?
Oh, you know it.
Are you?
What's not to like about that movie?
How did I know that Jordan, of all of us, would be the one that would be the biggest fan of Howard the Duck?
I would say that's the second best movie ever.
The bar that they go to that has the weird like chain link fence. Uh-huh. I always conflate Street Fighter 2, Vega's stage with the fence where they fight.
Yeah.
That in my mind, Vega fights in Howard the Duck the movie. So.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Howard the Duck movies since I was a kid, so not a lot of those scenes are fresh in my memory. What I do remember of it was just corny as hell, though, so I have no attachment to Howard the Duck whatsoever. So, yeah. Do I recall a Howard the Duck TV cartoon that might have aired on the USA Network many years ago? Or a cartoon?
No, it was a knockoff.
It was a knockoff? Okay.
Yeah. It was just badly animated. I want to say his name is Ajax or something. He was just a rude, crude duck, and his best friend was a bull.
Yeah, that's what
all animals.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I thought it might have been a Howard the Duck.
No.
I couldn't recall the name of the series.
No, that was probably early 90s, and that was just back when USA just put everything that was like scandalous on after dark, like barbed wire and weird
Pacific
science.
Blue.
Yeah.
I think that was a little later, but I do remember Pacific Blue always. I do remember on Monday Night Raw, Pacific Blue commercials, or was it Silk Stockings? Was that a
Yeah.
USA?
Yeah, probably.
I remember Silk Stockings all the time being like, "Oh man, that show looks so steamy." And then when you watch it, you're like, "Oh, this is a USA show. They show, you know, absolutely nothing." I'll flip it over to Skinamax and watch Red Shoe Diaries or something.
Starring David Duchovny.
Now, don't you mean National Geographic?
Exactly. I want to believe that Red Shoe Diaries was a good show, but it was not. So.
No, it was just worth looking at the Tupperware boobs for the most part. So, come on, Jordan.
Maybe that could be a conversation for future podcasts, like
what, Tupperware
just
boobs?
how. Yeah, exactly. Well, that could be a subtopic in our discussion of just how bad softcore porn is and how formative it was during my during puberty. So looking back now, I mean, I don't know when I discovered softcore pornography was a thing and that I could watch it almost every single weekend night in my bedroom. And my parents did not know. I thought it was the best thing ever. And now watching it now, I'm just like, holy shit, how did I ever watch this and think that it was worth watching? So,
spoiler alert: your parents probably knew exactly what you were doing.
I'm sure.
I'm sure washing all those nasty, dirty gym socks were the primary giveaway to that Justin.
Holy shit! You might need to cut this part out of the recorded version.
Too hot for the internet.
Fuck no, man, that's shit staying in, man. That's priceless. Hey, man.
But I earlier, to go back to our conversation about Guardians of the Galaxy, I think we're probably about ready to wrap up the conversation about that movie. But Nebula, what the fucking hell was that? She got hit. I can't argue with that, but I can say she got, what the hell happened to her? Did she get hit with a rocket? Yeah, she got hit with a rocket, right?
Yeah.
And then she's all busted up, but then her modifications make her 100% okay.
She basically is a transformer.
And then she jumps off of the plane and flies away. I was like, why did we even have this person in this movie? She served absolutely no purpose.
She's probably coming back somewhere.
Well, and I get that, but she served no one either. She was backstabbing. Was backstabbing Thanos. She was backstabbing Ronan. Who the hell does she serve other than herself? And what are her motivations if she is just serving herself?
She's a woman. What else does she need?
Ooh. I am woman. Hear me roar.
Right. I don't need no man. I'm taking whatever I want. And I'm blue.
I do what I want.
I don't know. I'm just humming Katy Perry's Roar to myself now. So
Fuck you. Just saying.
Don't hate on Katy Perry. You know, she's a starlet. She's gonna be classic. You know that like in 20 years that will be like what's played on classic radio stations, right? Like Katy Perry's Roar.
Yeah,
I'm just as depressed about it as you are, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't get stuck in my head just the same.
That's exactly why I don't listen to radio, and I'm sure we're going to have these discussions many times during the podcast. I don't listen to the fucking radio. I have enough music in my music library to fucking run my own radio station, and I can listen to the stuff that I enjoy because I have taste. So
yeah. Speaking of the music, again, referring it back to Guardians of the Galaxy, the music in the movie was absolutely fantastic. It was a character in and of itself, and the anachronism really brought a lot to the movie. Made it silly and aloof at times, and added the levity that I think some of the movie did need. So really thought that was a great part of the movie.
there were some poignant pieces that they chose, and they're great. In fact, some of that music is some of my favorite classic music of all time, and I really, really like the choice to use the Jackson 5 song at the end of the movie. That was that was awesome. That's one of my favorite Jackson 5 songs ever.
Very nice. So I think the only character we haven't discussed yet is John C. Reilly. Knocked it out of the park.
You know, before I let you guys go on this here, I know that you guys are huge John C. Reilly fans, and I am usually not. But what I am going to say here for it is that when he's not doing comedy, I'm fine with John C. Reilly. In his serious roles, I think he's okay. It's usually just the comedic roles that he chooses that I can't fucking stand. And mostly because it's the type of comedy I just don't like. I don't find the stupid humor funny. That's the same reason why I don't like Will Ferrell's comedy. It doesn't appeal to me. It does nothing for me. So for this, I thought John C. Reilly was just fine.
Yep, he is awesome.
I don't know if I have that strong of feelings about John C. Reilly. He's funny, I think, in a lot of roles, but in this movie, he has a pretty small role. I think he serves his purpose in the plot of the movie, but so now we found a movie with Will Ferrell and a movie with John C. Reilly that you like, that both you were able to watch this year. So
yeah, I mean,
down.
I thought Will Ferrell's performance in the Lego Movie was great. And that whole last sequence, and I'm sorry we're jumping off topic again, but that whole sequence there, the last 15-20 minutes with him and the kid, that was brilliant. It was very well done, and it another one of those sequences that just tugged on my heartstrings because it reminded me of me playing with my toys with my dad and stuff. So it was just awesome. It was a great sequence.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I mean, I think that probably will, get us to close to wrapping up our conversation of Guardians of the Galaxy. But I really think that it was a great movie. Not a fantastic movie, not the best movie, but certainly in contention for my favorite Marvel movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say it's in contention to be my favorite Marvel movie, but it was good. It was money well spent. I enjoyed the shit out of it. Mindless, good, fun entertainment. I will probably buy it on DVD when it hits, or Blu-ray when it hits Blu-ray. So.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the better ones I've seen this summer. So the blockbusters, it was a good surprise.
Well, given the fact that I don't get to go see movies very often, I really don't have it to compare to any of the other summer blockbusters. So,
yep, not bad.
Okay, so with Guardians done, I thought we could take the opportunity here to talk a little bit about The Last of Us remastered that came out or is on the way out. I'm not sure if it's out yet. But it's been remastered in HD for PlayStation 4, and when the original version or the original release came out on PS3, Justin and I went and grabbed it up, and we had totally felt like it was one of the best gaming experiences we'd ever had. I'm personally debating on whether or not I'm going to go out and spend the money to pick up this remastered version. I don't know if it offers enough new content for me to go out and spend another $60 on it, but I just thought we'd take some time to talk about the game a bit and talk about what made it so great and why we enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it may be better to move a really in-depth conversation of the game to a subsequent podcast, just because I do love the game. I have a whole lot to say about the game, which I don't know if, the time that we have left here would accommodate, but The remastered edition looks awesome. It's 60 frames, better textures. I haven't bought it, but I definitely plan on picking it up at some point. But in the hierarchy of games, as far as my list of favorites, it's probably at the top, or at least in contention for one of the top 3 or 4 spots. So it was fantastic. I mean, it really is. It's really it's a triumph of storytelling. It's the one of the best versions of storytelling I've ever seen in a video game, and just like I said, was fantastic. So,
Jordan, do you know much about the game other than the short time you came over to my house and played it at all?
No, just that. So that was basically the first 2, maybe 3 missions, or what?
Yeah, probably the first 3 missions. You probably played like the first 2 hours of the game or so.
Yeah, more of just the tutorial and the opening of the story, and it was okay. It was, from what I could tell, interesting character development, but you kind of you don't really get an idea of who you are in the world, because it's one thing, and then in the second mission everything's changed, and it just seemed really linear to me. I'm not a big fan of the games where you can do anything you want as long as you stay in this corridor. This door is locked and this is a fence, so you just run down, and I'm more a fan of the open world type games where you've got options. But it seemed okay.
I mean, it's as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a huge fan of open world games. I do like linearity for the point of telling a story. That's why I enjoy the Final Fantasy games so much, because most of them aren't open world either. But the opening, if you were not captivated by the opening 5-10 minutes of the game, there's something wrong with you, because the opening 10 minutes of The Last of Us is the most intense 10 opening minutes of a video game I've ever played in my life. It had me hooked from the get-go.
Well, guys, there's something wrong with me.
Oh, Jordan.
We've known that for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I'm not saying it's not good or anything, but I don't know. It seemed a little predictable, and like, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, you haven't played through the whole game either, because it's
True.
Not as predictable as you might think when it all finishes out. So I won't. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Just to weigh in, I think that I'm probably more of a fan of linear games, oftentimes because those games have a lot more narrative heft to them, which it's not always the case. I mean, obviously Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, those all have really meaty narratives that the open world serves well. So I mean, I think when you're talking about open world versus linear, it's really whatever suits the narrative is what appeals to me. I mean, like I said, I play a lot of silly platforming games that have absolutely no story at all, but I'm more drawn to a narrative, and I do believe that there is no other game that has achieved the heights of narrative that The Last of Us was able to achieve. I mean, like you said, Mike, I think the opening scene in that game, it's very evocative. It's very tense, and it sets up the game perfectly. And then it does, it does color your perception of the characters throughout the rest of the game, and really pays off in big ways toward the end. So, I mean, saying that something's wrong with you if you don't like it, Jordan, I don't know if I'd go that far. I think there's lots of other things I might point to, like your love of DC Cab, as to signs that there's something amiss. But I do think that if you do take the plunge and do purchase a PlayStation 4, it is a game that's worth playing through just to see exactly how it does play out. And I mean, like I said, the narrative is obviously the strongest point of the game, but I think that the gameplay, the mechanics of the game are all tied in intrinsically to the way that the game. Yeah, visceral is definitely a good descriptor for it. You feel the punches and the shots and the stabs, and that all serves again the story, which I think that there's no game that I've ever played that touches the highs that game reaches. So
I would like to see a side-by-side of that and the original, just to see what differences they are, because I know there's a lot of games that they're just remastering and re-releasing for the next gen that I don't know, that almost seems lazy to me. If you're making out a new console, let's make some new games for it. And if you don't have new games, we'll wait. But it just seems like they're coming out with stuff we've already played, just so you have to spend another $60.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have. I've seen comparison videos online. I think that, graphically speaking, it is a step up enough where you can notice it. I haven't, like I said, I haven't watched it played in front of my own eyes, but the comparison videos that I've seen do change, and the frame rate is the big differentiator there. Where when it was on the PlayStation 3, they kind of locked the frame rate at 30 frames per second. And on the newer version, it's bumped up to 60, where you can actually play. Which, in a game with a lot of movement, a lot of action, 60 frames sometimes just makes the gameplay a lot smoother. So, I mean, I would say for anybody who's never played it, get the PlayStation 4 version. You can set it back to the 30 frames if you prefer that, but the 60 frames I think makes the game look like it would probably be a little bit easier to control. So.
Yeah, Jordan, I am actually sending you a link through Hangout here, so you can actually see some comparison pictures. I think you'll find that there's a pretty big improvement. I will echo Justin's sentiments on that. If you have not played The Last of Us, you truly do owe it to yourself to give it a shot. It hands down has achieved top 5 status for me all time for video games. It is such a good game, from gameplay mechanics all to the story, graphically, everything. It's a complete package. I mean, my number one favorite video game of all time is Final Fantasy VII, and The Last of Us contends very, very closely with that.
Like I said, I think at some point maybe we can talk about the game more in depth, more in detail.
For sure. Yeah.
Maybe we can convince Jordan to actually play through it, and then talk about it a little bit more in depth. But holy shit, like I said, I play a lot of games. I play most games I play through, but this one really hit me, stronger than most. So.
I believe we just lost Jordan.
Yeah.
What happened to him? Let's see if I can get him back in here. I think we're probably at a point where we can probably wrap this up, but I want to bring him back in so that we can wrap it up here.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. He just sent me a text saying that he lagged out.
Is he back in?
Not yet. He texted me. Actually, he might be back in now. Are you back in, Jordan?
Sorry, guys. I had some zombies I had to deal with.
No problem. Yeah, so I think we're probably approaching a good point to wrap up here. Um, I am going to try and have this edited down and ready to post up by middle of the week here. If I have a bunch of extra time, I may be able to get it posted up even sooner than that. But folks will be able to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. I would highly recommend that, and I would also highly appreciate if you would leave us some ratings and let us know what you think of the show. Again, if you like, you can email us at geekedpodcast@gmail.com, and that's geeked, GEEKED, podcast@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail on Skype at Geeked Podcast, Geeked Space Podcast. Make sure you put a space there. You can also reach us on Facebook, Geeked Podcast on Facebook. You can reach us on Twitter at Geeked Podcast. And just feel free to let us know what you think. If you have any questions for us, if you disagree with us, that's what I really want to see. I want to see people that disagree with us. We may feature your message on the air, and we may answer you back. So,
Yep. I say let's throw out a code word for any listeners. Let's say the first person to post on our Facebook page, quack. We'll talk about you on the next show.
You want to give them that?
Yeah, let's make them do that.
Okay.
See, with fans, you got to set up hoops so they can jump through and.
Little fan service from Jordan here. So if you say the word quacked, we'll make sure and feature, give you a shout out on the show, and we'll feature the rest of your message as well. So the first fan that goes up on Facebook, Twitter, email, whatever, and gives us the word quack along with their message here, we'll feature you on next week's show here.
Sounds good. Good work, guys.
Yeah, I thought it went over well, especially for the first time. Little clunky with the transitions. We can work on that as we go, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, a little segue massaging.
Probably wouldn't hurt any. Yep. Anybody else have anything else they wanted to get in?
I'm good.
All right.
Nope.
Well, I've got a jab for you real quick, Justin. I got to jab you. You do not use the social media very often, and you, sir, are going to have to start using the social media a little bit more often. We're going to need you to be able to jump on that Facebook and on Twitter and shout us out a little bit, man.
All right, I'll see what I can do. I can't promise the world, because although I know social media is important, I hate Facebook. So I'm sure I will make that statement many times throughout the podcast. But hey, if anybody hits us up through Facebook, if that's a way to interact with a community at large, I definitely would embrace it. So just as long as I don't post long political rants at me, or say that DC Cab's a good movie or something like that, or I'll call you crazy. So.
It's a government conspiracy, I tell you.
Yeah, I would just as soon prefer to stay away from the political conversations too. There's no political conversation.
And I do have to say, if anybody does post on our Facebook page, there's learn the proper uses of your, because if you're a dick and you point, and just make sure that you use proper grammar. If you want to be a dick. If you want to be a dick, it's fine. But then use proper grammar when you're being a dick. Or you totally undercut the point of your statement. So.
But I don't think anybody's ever 100% a dick.
Excellent time to insert said pun.
Yep.
You can always count on Jordan for the puns. I'm sure that
Always ready.
Will unfurl itself throughout the rest of the podcast. So.
Yeah, so folks, don't get on your we hate puns high horse, please.
No. You're going to like it.
Okay, guys. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap up here. So we will try to reconvene again next week here and bring you another episode with a new discussion here. And if you guys got some suggested topics you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know, and we may do a little research on that and discuss it a bit. Something I do want to say is for next week we can talk a little bit about is football season is upon us. And Jordan, I know you're not a huge football nut, but the Hall of Fame game is tomorrow, and we're heading into preseason football, so I'm sure that's going to be a topic of discussion next week. At least it is for me anyway. So
how can they do the Hall of Fame before the season starts?
I do have to, first of all, that's a very good question, Jordan. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure, but I do have to say, you have HBO, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I know you do, Jordan. I don't know if you would be as into it, Jordan, but there is a series called Hard Knocks. I don't know if you guys have heard about it before, but it's kind of like a documentary into training camp this year. It's the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's Tuesday that it starts, but I think it's fantastic, and it definitely sheds some light into the lives of especially some of the unknown rookies entering the league and making their way through the initial processes in the NFL. So, like I said, you might like it, Jordan. I don't know. I think you probably have to have a love of the sport to really get a super deep appreciation for it. But definitely a suggestion I'd throw your way, Mike, and anybody listening. So.
Okay, right on. Okay. Well, with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Hopefully we've satiated your appetite enough that you'll tune in again next week. Until then, I'm Mike, speaking on behalf of Justin and Jordan. Have a good one, y'all, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Good night.